We are going to kick off with that same question we just asked Kevy, is your most effective coach at NRL level, and then also your grassroots coach. Like, who had a big impact on you and the way that sort of impacted you as a player and progressed you into playing into the NRL?
Yeah, I'll start with my grassroots. There was a guy that I actually used to work for. I started as a bricklayer apprentice. I left school early to be a brickie apprentice. And the guy, Ken Simmons, his name was, he took me on as a brickie. He was my coach, and he was almost like a pre-Tim Sheen sort of coach, because he was someone who believed in the basics of rugby league. You didn't have to go and do the fancy stuff and show, all these skills and all that. It was basically know how to tackle well. When I say well, I'm talking about technique, and know how to pass well, and I'm talking about technique, and know how to catch a ball. That was the basics of his game, and I learned that at an early age. And like Kevy said, if you can get those basics down as a young kid, it really helps you as you get older. Tommy, obviously, I just spoke about Tommy, how much of an impact in my career he had. He was all about the never die attitude, mate. He was, you could be winning. And I said, when I say lean years, I know none of you guys probably, remember some of our West Magpies games, but mate, we were getting beat 40-0, 30-0, 70-0 some games in the last 2 years, because we just didn't have that calibre of player at the time. And that's easy and especially a young kid, that's easy for young kids to give up. If you're getting 50-0 every week, it's why am I doing this?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. Like, when you're in an environment like that and you're getting beaten every week and you're obviously getting paid to play the game, how do you overcome that as a player? Because I imagine there'll be some coaches out here with having teams that are going through a run of losses or something like that. How do you keep yourself involved, and what do you expect from your coach in that sort of environment?
For me, I think at that time it was easy, because I was just so grateful that I was playing NRL or ARL at the time. So I was happy that I was playing. They had players who'd been playing for 10 years. Andrew Leeds, Paul Langmax, Steve Georgalis, guys who'd been playing for a long time were probably worse off than what I was, because I was just happy to be there. Tommy had his work cut out with them, and that was about, I think what Kevy said, was making the game enjoyable. Rocking up the train and have a real good bond with your players, making training fun. Not so much focusing on the loss and what happened the week before, but worry about that week of training, and try to you bring it up and you talk about it, because you have to review the game and understand what happened, because if you don't understand what happened, then you can't improve on it. So we did that, but Tommy just somehow, I don't know, just made it fun for us. We would go out. So we had a compulsory, and I something probably wouldn't do now, but we had a compulsory Tuesday night beers. So every Tuesday night we had to go to the pub down the corner after training and have a beer. And I was young and I didn't really want to have a beer. I wanted to set a good example. And if you didn't have a beer, you would have to be the betting guy. So you'd have to walk around and grab everyone's bets and put the bets on for them while they're drinking. So I learned that pretty quickly. I think I did that once, and next Tuesday I was on the beers, and every Tuesday I was getting pissed. So, but the problem was I had to wake up and train on the Wednesday. So that sort of stuff. I know, again, you can't probably do that now, and young kids, you have to find something different. But that's what he had, and and he made it enjoyable for us to rock up to training, because I look forward to Tuesday and having a beer with him. So
so it's building that culture and that connection with the players and the coaching staff as well. They want to be part of something. Like I always say to our grassroots coaches out here, that a good thing to do is get your parents involved in some of your training sessions, maybe once a month, game of touch football or whatever, and get the parents involved. There's certainly different ways you can go about doing that and creating that culture for these younger coaches and stuff out here, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and it's getting everybody involved in the club and letting them know that we. As a club, we knew we weren't by alone. We had Tommy coming in. He brought he used to bring. I remember he brought in Arthur Beeson at one stage and to talk to us about the game, and he just mixed it up a little bit. So it took our minds away from the bad season that we were having. We knew we were having bad seasons at that time, but it just took our minds away a little bit. And he had the knack to do that. And that's like I said. He just had that never die attitude, loved the club, passionate about the West Magpies, and you could see it in some of the photos. And you remember him, there's a classic picture of when we were told it was our last game at Campbelltown Stadium, and we did the passion in the tears that were coming out of him, because we were merging, and that was the kind of guy he was. So, and then my other coach, obviously Tim Sheens. Tim Sheens, and like Heavy, if you look at everyone that's played under Tim Sheens, you look at the record in NRL at the moment, how many people are either coaches or some sort of official in the rugby league. It's because they had some sort of affiliation with Tim Sheens. And Sheensy, from day one, he came to our club in 2003, and I could just feel the difference. He just was so professional. He wasn't scared to try things. That was one thing with Sheensy, and I think You know, if you go talk to Benji or Farah or any of those guys that came through, they would say the same thing. You know, he backed them with their skills. As long as he said one thing, I'll let you do anything. I remember him saying this, I'll let you do anything you want. As a front rower, you can do whatever you want. You can chip and chase, you can put a bomb up, you can do whatever you want as long as you practice it at training. You see, if I see you practicing at training, I'll let you do it. And that's how he was.
I think that's a really good point you bring up too. Like, I guess sometimes we sort of pigeonhole our players if they're big middle. We just concentrate them on running straight. Obviously, you're a tough man in the day when you were playing, and that was your job, was to get the go forward. But would you think with this modern era of footy and the way they're playing now that it's pretty important to give those skills across the board to all players?
It was important back then, and that's one thing I think what made us such a good team in 2005 or 4 and 5. We just missed out in the semis in 04, but you could see that coming through the years. Basic skills was his thing. Like, I remember, I help out with a local team back in New South Wales in Campbelltown area, Narellan Jets, and I brought Sheensy to a training session, and he did exactly the same thing that he used to do with us. We warmed up with pass, with a ball in our hand. You know, our warm-up wasn't a static, you know, swing the leg, get on the ground and swing the kick over. It was, boys, get a ball in your hand, start warming up. That was the warm-up. And I remember doing that from 2003 onwards. Every person in our team could pass the ball. It didn't matter if you were a winger, a front rower. You had to be able to pass the ball. You had to be able to tip it on. You had to be able to offload it. You had to be skillful. And if you look at some of our games, that's what we were. We weren't the biggest team, but we were a very skillful team. And then you had guys like Benji and Princey and Robbie Farrow and Brett Hodgson coming behind those forwards that could be able to, you know, pass the ball. You know, and that's what made us a, you know, pretty potent scoring team.